Welcome back, everybody. It was spooky month last month, and so a lot of the books that I read are spooky in nature, so let's get into it. Starting off, we have Murder on the Orient Express by Agatha Christie, and you can always trust a Christie to bring you out of any sort of reading slump because she is so meticulous in the orders of how she does things. Her murder mysteries are wrapped up in a nice little bow, and you know exactly what you're getting. Because Murder on the Orient Express is so famous, it has been adapted into movies, and the premise, the plot, has been used and recycled by more modern things. And so if you're going and reading it for the very first time, having read modern stuff, you may think that it's predictable or overdone, and it's only because the girl invented it and everybody else just took it. Thief. If you haven't read anything of Agatha Christie, you should. You should remedy that mistake and read her because she's so good at what she does. Or did. I think she might be dead now.
Definitely did.
If you like zombies, I think you will really like this book. I don't like zombies, and I really liked this book. In fact, maybe, okay, let me rephrase that. I don't think I like watching zombies because the whole, actual visual of dead things, people in particular, eating other people, is so gross. And I guess I tame the visual in my mind a little bit so it's not as bad. So maybe reading it is why I can stand reading it. But this was very well written. This is a two-part story. So the first half of it is told by the point of view of Mac Ballard, who is, I describe as like a Paul Blart character. Just, he lets everybody walk all over him at work. Doesn't stand up for himself, kind of lame. But then he turns into this badass survivalist, and then has to take care of this young girl and get her to a specific location. So it was kind of like The Last of Us vibes. And the author actually responded to my Goodreads saying that they had no idea what Last of Us was when they wrote the book. So it's just a happy coincidence. Not only that, but Mike Ballard was at ground zero when the whole zombie thing happened. So he was the whistleblower who told the government about it. So instead of having zombies run rampant and destroying everything, they kind of were able to put in the Autumn Queen protocol and pen the infection in. And so the rest of society functions like normal, like how our everyday is on the other side of a wall, whereas inside the wall where Mike is deciding to live is very much like The Last of Us, where there's these zombies around and everything. So the second half is told from the point of view of Cassandra, who is an elite soldier, ex-soldier, maybe current soldier, if I'm remembering correctly. And she is a transgender woman of color and faces a lot of prejudice from her superiors, and they're trying to use her for a thing. I don't want to give away too much of it. Spoilers, reviews without spoilers. Trying my best.
Your best is not good enough.
But ultimately, she gives them a proverbial middle finger and overcomes what is thrown at her. And I find her story, both of their stories, to be incredibly fascinating. I think I liked Mike Ballard's story a little bit better because I felt like there was more of a character arc with Mike. There was more of a change with him. This was very well written, and it's an independent author and deserves way more attention. I think there's only 6 reviews on Goodreads, so that is criminal, and more people need to read this. The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. This book was wild. Apparently, it's the 90s American South, but the culture of it felt more like the 50s, so it's very WASP culture, and there is this white picket fence community, and then a neighboring community is where the black community lives. So it's very segregated, and I was like, this doesn't feel 90s. It felt 50s to me in that regard. But then again, I didn't grow up in the American South in the 90s. I was born in the 90s, so I'm a 90s baby, but can I really say that I grew up in the 90s? Because I barely remember it. I'm more of an early 2000s, because how old was I? 6. I was 6 by the time the 90s were over.
You're a fraud.
Memories suck, so I don't remember any of the 90s. I mean, some of it, I remember some of it. I got the Barbies. Anyway, I digress. From a supernatural, purely supernatural standpoint of judging this book, I found it very lackluster, and I was left with a lot of questions about why certain events take place. And especially with the vampire, I don't want to give it away. Let's just say it was too easy. Especially considering this vampire supposedly has all of these powers that are unexplained and then only used once, and then yeah. So just from a supernatural standpoint, I thought it wasn't very great. But from the thematic elements of like the lens tackling sexism and racism, I found that this book in particular was incredibly poignant and insightful. However, I will say, apparently women in the 90s in the South only married assholes, because the husbands of every single woman who was part of this book club had a massive flaw in some sort of way, and they were all douchebags in their own regards. And that was a bit unbelievable. I was like, nobody married a nice man? Everybody was a misogynist? That doesn't make sense.
What?
But we're going with it because we want to talk about sexism. So that was another thing that made me think this was 50s more than 90s, because they're all housewives. They have to stay home. They have to cook the meal. They have to do all the things that the 50s housewife did. Seriously though, if you take away any of the 90s tech, this is 50s 100% with the segregation and how men treat women. It was interesting. There were times, however, with Patricia, who's the main character of this book, I wanted to reach in there and just like throttle her and say, stop being stupid, because she was singularly the most frustrating character that I have read about in a very long time. So I can't say that this was a favorite book, but it was insightful because the vampire is a wealthy white man, and he's able to get away with all of the things that he's doing because he's a wealthy white man. And the first community that sees what's going on or has a sense of something happening is the Black community, and nobody listens or pays attention to them. And then a white woman, they'll listen to her a little bit, but then they consider her hysterical and they put her on uppers and downers, you know, mother's little helpers. Again, 50s theme is what I'm getting. I don't think the American South is that far behind in decades, is it? Is that how the 90s was? Anybody in the American South grew up in the 90s with the WASP culture? Please tell me if that's how it was, because I find it hard to believe. So basically, this vampire is a vampire, both figuratively and literally, sucking from the community because he's a wealthy white man. And so I found that part of the book to be of use talking about. And what's funny is this book is going to be our book club book with my book club this month, which I find ironic because it's a book about a book club, and there's going to be a lot of talking points about this book, and I thought that was funny. This one is a maybe I'd recommend because there is a lot of vivid imagery that is not suitable for all readers, especially if you don't like rats. Yeah, that part was gross. Masters and Crowns. If you are really looking for a cozy romantasy, then this is a book that I would highly recommend. And maybe I'm a little bit biased because this is a friend of mine who wrote this book. And actually, I haven't talked to her in well over a decade. And the last time we spoke, she was telling me that she had aspirations to be an author, and now she's written several books. So I'm just incredibly proud of her, and I do think that she did a very good job on this book. So I'm just letting you know my biases, but I'm being honest. I thought it was well written. The pacing in the beginning was a little bit slow, but then it found a groove and it got into things, and it made for a compelling read that was difficult for me to put down. When I say romantasy, I know a lot of people think smut and romantasy are kind of synonymous at this point, but this one has no smut. It's very cozy. It's like a slow burn, and then it ends with kissing and very chaste, and that's it. Okay, so if you're looking for smut, this isn't for you. It's not gonna give you that same feeling that you look for with your other books, just to let you know. In this fantasy world, Arya is a princess. She is human, And Baron is his nickname. His name is Guillaume. I think I'm saying it incorrectly, which is a theme in this book. His name is constantly said incorrectly. Anyway, Baron is his nickname, and he is a caster, which means he is a magic user. And in this world, casters and humans are not necessarily segregated, but casters are heavily regulated. They have to be registered with the government, and they are branded physically, burning brands, visible as casters. Arya finds herself cursed and then tries to enlist the help of Baron to remove her curse, and she develops a friendship with him. She learns more about casters. She learns more about magic. Her eyes are opened to how her dad, who's the king running the kingdom, he's not doing a very good job, and he is hurting a populace in their kingdom. And she then rallies others to try to change it. I described this in my Goodreads as Romeo and Juliet meets Sleeping Beauty, except Baron and Arya are not as stupid as Romeo and Juliet, and the beauty never sleeps because that's her curse. Her curse is she is lethargic during the day, and then at nighttime she has all this pent-up energy, but she cannot sleep. She physically cannot sleep. And if she does, it'll maybe be for like 30 minutes, but then she's wide awake and she's tired all the time.
I just want to sleep. I just want to go to sleep.
That was another thing that I thought could be a tad more clear with this book, was the curse. I didn't fully understand how it worked, and there were some questions on how it was killing her, because supposedly this curse is killing her as well, especially since there wasn't written any like deterioration, more so just based on her appearance. Like she was described as looking skeletal, but she still had a lot of vigor in her mind that I didn't think was explained well enough. But I liked the book enough that I was able to ignore that. I also heavily related to Arya because her character flaw is perfectionism, and if you, like me, battle with perfectionism, you know how horrible it is and how hard it is to kick. And so I really loved reading about her learning to give herself more grace. Like, she doesn't fully get rid of her perfectionism. She's still working on it, but she goes from being heavily burdened by it to at least being able to deal with it and to realize that mistakes happen and it's okay to learn from them and grow from them rather than to let them bog you down and to ruin your entire day. So I loved this book and recommend it to anybody who likes a romantasy that's very cozy. A House in the Cerulean Sea. Oh, this book was so good. This book was my favorite of the month. I loved this book. It's an urban fantasy that follows Linus, who is a government official, and his job is to audit orphanages and to let the government entity that he works for know whether or not the orphanage is being run properly and it can remain open or if it needs to be closed. And everything changes for Linus when he's assigned to a very special orphanage that has 6 very special children, and they are all magical creatures that are of a different type than these other orphanages that have some magical creatures in them. One of them in particular is the son of Lucifer. The government calls him the Antichrist, but everyone at the orphanage knows that you're not supposed to call him that, because how you were born does not determine how you will be as an adult. I did find out after reading this book that it was mildly, I wouldn't say entirely inspired, from having read the book, but there was an inspiration from the 60s Scoop, which was an event that happened in Canada from the 50s to the 80s, where government welfare programs were able to take Indigenous children away from their families and place them into foster homes, where they would then be adopted by white families. So as Linus is fulfilling his assignment, he has a 1-month assignment at this house in the Cerulean Sea. He discovers the discrimination of the very government entity that he works for. His eyes are opened to that, and he changes, and I loved to see his change. He went from being this basically sad government worker into somebody that values life, loves life, and realizes that Discrimination is never good. It's that just because somebody was born different than him doesn't mean that they deserve less freedom or less joy than he does. One of my favorite lines from this book was, just because you don't experience prejudice in your everyday doesn't stop it from existing for the rest of us. This book was incredibly insightful and I thought very poetic and well written. There was some moments where the dialogue I got a little bit repetitive. There were a lot of oh my's, but in my opinion, I didn't think that repetitiveness took away from the value that this book possesses, especially with our current, I don't know about the world in general, but I know in the US, the current climate is not amazing. And I think a lot more people need to read books like this that showcase that differences are okay and not to be feared. And I'm just going to read a few more things that I wrote down that I highlighted because I thought they were so insightful. Sometimes things get chipped and broken, but there's still good in them. Change happens with the voices of the few. I highly recommend it. It was a fave for good reason. If you're looking for 80s nostalgia with vampires, When Summer Comes Around. I thought this was excellent. If you've watched the movie The Lost Boys, I think that's the best comparison that I can make, because as I was reading it, I was just like, oh, this is kind of similar to The Lost Boys. So it's a coming-of-age horror thriller where our main character is Rocky. He's 15 years old. All he wants to do is get his license and be seen by girls. The poor guy has scoliosis and has to wear a brace and is very conscientious about it. But the one girl who finally pays attention to him is a vampire, and she has a mean older brother. Again, takes place in the 80s. It's a coastal Maine town that has a tourist season in the summer, and the vampires come for the season. And just think of like cassette tapes and riding bikes until the lamplights come on. It was so nostalgic. I loved every minute of this. It was very bloody, very gory. I don't read a whole lot of horror, but of the horror that I have read, I feel like this fit that formula of plenty of don't open those doors moments, just don't do it. There were plenty of moments where I was on the edge of my seat of like, will they, won't they? This was very well formulated, and just like with the Autumn Queen Protocol, this is an independent author and it needs more eyes, because I think on Goodreads, it has less than 300 impressions or ratings and barely 100 reviews. Go check it out if horror is your thing, because there's plenty of blood, lots and lots of blood. The Alloy of Law. It has been a minute since I read something from Brandon Sanderson, so I was just feeling it. I know Alloy of Law does not really fit into the spooky season theme of things, but it's Brandon Sanderson, and I had read the very first Mistborn series, and I hadn't read the Wax and Wayne series yet, so I started with Alloy of Law, and I'm so glad I did, because it is so good. And I'm heavily biased because Brando Sando is my favorite author. I am just in love with the worlds that he creates and how he writes his magic system. His imagination is out of this world. I can only aspire to such an imagination because it's way out of my reach. So if you've read the Mistborn series, then the Wax and Wayne series takes place right after the Mistborn series on Scadrial, which is the same planet in the same Cosmere that Brandon Sanderson has created. And it was really interesting to see how the planet had changed in the hundreds of years since the Mistborn series. I think you can read Wax and Wayne without having read the first series, but I think it would be a mistake to do so, because there were several references that otherwise wouldn't have made sense if you haven't read the first series. I felt like it was a Sherlock Holmes meets American Western gunslinging, because Wax is just like the super smart guy, and but you still have the same magic from the Mistborn series, where it's the elemental magic, where you have to ingest a certain metal, and different metals allow you to do different things, but only if you are of the genetic capability to be able to use those metals, because there's some people, if they ingest a certain metal, it doesn't let them do anything. His magic system is just mind-blowing. I was like, how do you come up with this stuff? It's insane.
The limit does not exist.
I've never been disappointed by a Brandon Sanderson book. I've not read all of his books yet, so maybe I'm speaking too soon. But of every single book that I have read of his, I thought they were all bangers, and he does not miss. He does not miss. Wax and Wayne both have their individual personalities, and they are so lovable, and I immediately got drawn into the world and the mystery, and I can't wait to continue this series. That's what I read in October. Currently, I'm back. I did this whole sign off and everything, and then completely forgot that I read A Wild Dark Shore, which I also waited forever and a freaking day to get from my library, and I don't know why I didn't talk about it because it was very good. It was worth the long wait, and I can see why it is very popular, because there are lots of themes of like love, loss, trauma, how different people respond to these things and how they cope with these things and overcome them. And there was so many twists and turns. I had lost track of some things, and yeah, it stumped me, because usually when there's like twists or mystery in some way, I'm always just trying to figure out who done it, and then you realize, oh, that's different than what I thought. And so I always find that to be a mark of a good writer, if they're able to use a common theme but then change it a little bit so that the reader is expecting a certain thing based on formula of other books that I have read, and then it's different. It's not. So just a brief premise. This all takes place on a very secluded island, and there is a family who are the caretakers of this island. They take care of the lighthouse and all this stuff, so they are very isolated. They don't see a whole lot of people, but it is a research island, so they do interact with the researchers who are there on the island. On this island, there is a seed bank, which houses all of the known seeds to all of the plants for when the world ends. And there's a lot of themes in this book about climate change and how other people, their ideas on it and how they cope with the idea of climate change. Do they believe in the idea of climate change? So basically, the inciting incident is when a woman washes up on shore of this isolated island. Hi, Buffy. She's upset that I'm kind of in her spot, because this is where she lays on the couch, but this is also my favorite spot to do my book reviews. So I'm almost done, I promise.
Hold your horses.
So this woman washes up on shore, and they have no idea how she got there or why she's there. They heal her, though. They help her, because she's got a lot of injuries. And then they later find out the identity of this woman and why she is there, because she is there on purpose. And that's when all of the crazy twists and everything happen. The ending of this book was also completely heartbreaking, so just as a warning, if you're like me and you get a little bit invested in characters. I also really liked the discussion on parenthood, because I'm a parent myself, and it feels like I am drowning in an ocean sometimes when it comes to how to properly manage young humans. So I completely related to the prose that tackled the complexities of parenthood and how, especially with the different stages of your children in their life, and how you need to adapt in how to parent them, because parenting a 6-year-old is different than parenting a 16-year-old. There was also a whirlwind romance in it, which wasn't my favorite part, but might be a favorite for some of you guys. I personally thought that the romance was a little bit fast. I'm more preferential to a slow burn because it makes more sense to me. It's like you need to get to know somebody before you wind up kissing them or doing more things, as these people did.
Naughty.
So yeah, those are my thoughts. Currently, I'm reading Mars High School and All Systems Red. So that's going to be the start of my November. I believe I will have All Systems Red finished by the end of today, because it's amazing so far. And the Murderbot series, I think that was one of you guys that recommended I read the Murderbot series. And thank you. Thank you for the recommendation, because so far I'm really liking it. Both these books are science fiction, and we'll see the rest of what I read in November. My TBR has a lot of science fiction in it, so it might just be a science fiction month. Really though, what did you read in October? Because I want to know. Did you read any of the books that I have read? Because I also want to know your thoughts. Maybe you disagree with me, which is fine, because disagreements breed discourse, which then helps with mutual learning, right? Differences are good and are encouraged. So leave your thoughts in the comments, and as always, happy reading, my friends.